Understanding Parental Involvement. This lecture is intended to help workshop participants understand what Building Families and Communities Institute, or BFC, means by its use of parental involvement training. The focus is on empowering parents with information so that they can build on what they already know about their children. Alrighty, we have lots of work to get done, so let's get right into it. We'll begin our work today by understanding what parental involvement is. And by the way, that's the basis of our lecture for today. Again, my name is Ruben White Dockery Sr., and I am your trainer and facilitator, and we will be working in our laboratory setting. Let's begin with understanding the scope of the issue with parental involvement. We shall consider a case study. This is a story that might sound very familiar to all of you, and you no doubt will be able to identify with the characters of the story and the issues that will be presented and the outcomes that result from this story. Miss Potter's son has been suspended from school for 20 days due to his disruptive behavior. Miss Potter has a home phone, a cell phone, and a work phone on file with her son's school office. Neither the son nor the school staff informed Miss Potter of the suspension. Her son has been hanging out on the streets during school hours. He was afraid to tell his mother of the suspension. Miss Potter is at work the whole time her son is out of school. She assumed that he was going to school when he leaves to board the bus in the morning with his siblings. She was not notified of his suspension until she was summoned from the juvenile court for a truancy violation. The boy stayed in trouble all the time at his school. It was determined by a special team of individuals that he had a reading deficiency, and he also had some issues with being overweight. His mother works hard to take care of him and his 3 siblings. She does all she can to care for her children, and she's not always able to give the individualized attention he desires. Often the boy feels alone, and his mother does not know how to reach him. She is afraid to discipline him out of fear of being arrested and having the other children taken by the authorities. Since the boy's birth, there has been no male authority figure in his life. He has uncles and male cousins. However, they encourage him to be his own man. The Mother's Church has an after-school program that the boy could benefit from, like his siblings. However, as the eldest child, he's informed his mother that he doesn't like going to church, and he refuses to take advantage of the programs and services made available to him. Because of Miss Potter's son's repeated violation, the judge ordered him to a juvenile detention facility for a period of 3 months. Saddened by the incident, Miss Potter requested that the judge direct her to a program or community-based organization that could help her understand her son and to address his academic deficiencies and emotional issues. In her heart, Miss Potter knows that she's doing the very best that she can. However, she deeply feels that she can use some help and information on how to reach her son and become better engaged. As we think about this, we have to ask ourselves, if we're going to be proactive and successful in our aim to make a difference, what is the appropriate approach to solutions? Well, from Building Families and Communities Institute's standpoint, We believe that first we have to embrace the reality of local circumstances. When we speak of local circumstances, what we mean is the issues as they present themselves within the city or within a geographic area location. We have to make sure that our approach to solving the problem is commensurate or considerate of the needs of the individuals facing the problem, just like Ms. Potter and her son. We have to consider research. When we talk about research, educators and other professionals, often they seek or they look for what are known as best practices, models. And while that's important, you do have to look at research-based practices. The problem with that is that they may work under a different set of circumstances, or similar rather, set of circumstances, but it may not always work the same under every condition. Then you have to consider the fact that time is a factor. When certain practices or certain strategies were implemented under given conditions and circumstances, they were effective. But given the fact that time moves on and people as social beings grow and develop, their needs are ever changing, we have to realize that best practices must catch up and keep up with the needs of local circumstances. Then we have to look at legal issues. Often there are barriers to being able to reach certain populations of citizens because of the fear of suit and maybe violating someone's right. So the approach must take into consideration what is legally feasible so that we can address head-on certain needs. Then we have to look at the availability of financial resources. Often funding is provided for various services, and the individuals that will benefit from them are not aware that these funds exist, nor how to go about getting them. So we have to do a better job as a community as a whole of informing citizens of financial resources and opportunities that are made available to them by public dollars, as well as private if there are any. Then we have to develop realistic parent-friendly strategies. If we only try to address children and their needs, we're only going to be able to be successful partially. It is so vitally important that when we work with children, in order to best serve them, that we empower parents through knowledge and support. So we must make sure that the approach includes our parents and their input in strategy development. Then after we develop strategies, we have to move toward implementation of those strategies. We must ensure that parent-friendly strategies are developed and that they are in part being implemented with the input and support of the parents, as well as the children. The children will only be with educational professionals and those in the social service arena for a period of time, unless they're in foster care or detention. But in the regular or traditional civic environment, it's important that parents play a significant role. We see this more importantly in the public school system. And again, that's what we're here for, to develop this model by which parents can do that. And at the end of our workshop, that's what we'll have. So again, implementing parent-friendly strategies that are relevant to local circumstances. Now, Building Families and Communities Missions Incorporated conducted some research about 5 or 6 years ago, and we operated under a grant from the Tennessee State Department of Education. Our charge was to develop a charter school model that would provide parents of children who were facing academic deficiencies as well as social barriers to learning, and to engage parents in a way that they will be involved and children will have better academic success. Well, what we found is that there are certain elements of proactive parental involvement in civic engagement. We conducted a survey and there were 10 questions asked. Of the 10 questions, there were 6 responses that had the highest number of responses out of a total number of 250 surveyed individuals or respondents. Well, these 6 things that parents indicated to us through our door-to-door campaign and these surveys are thus. And you'll notice that these correlate themselves with the 6 issues that we pointed out in the case study with Ms. Potter and her son. Number 1, a need for awareness of parental rights and responsibilities in educating children, particularly their children. There was a cry for that. Ensuring academic support for children in the home environment. Parents want to know what can we do rather at home to reinforce the lessons that our children are learning in the schools. And in doing so, they become a partner in education. All right? Instilling appropriate discipline in children. They wanted to know, how do we keep ourselves from being on the wrong end of the law when it comes to disciplining our children? What can we do as parents that will not be considered illegal or cause us to get in any trouble, okay? And we'll look at that again. Understanding civic expectations for children and families. That was an interest in better understanding exactly, every child comes from a different set of family dynamics. However, there are basic civic expectations for all of our children, irregardless to what your orientation or background is. Parents want to know exactly how can we better understand that. Building neighborhood and community support for children and families. As with Ms. Potter, many parents want to know, how can we mobilize the resources and the voices of influence, the characters that our children look to for example as role models within their local neighborhoods and communities. So there was a cry for understanding how to build support networks or systems. We often say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, what does a healthy village look like? Okay? And then lastly, improving physical, social, and emotional health for children and youth. Parents want to know, how can they address their children's psychological and emotional issues that they face on a regular basis. When you see a child in school acting out, often they're looking and seeking for attention because something is going on with them. Well, these are the results of our survey, 6 of those results anyway, again, that had the highest number of respondents. All right.